are joined today by Representative Natalie Mihalek. You are proposing legislation to change the way charter school students get to school. How do they get to school currently?
That's right. So it depends on the area that they're from, really. We have many charter students, as long as they're within 10 miles from the home school district, they would be on a yellow school bus. The public school district has to provide transportation. What we've seen in Allegheny County and other parts of the state recently is that they're providing bus passes for public transportation instead of those traditional yellow school buses, even though the school might be within that 10-mile radius.
What prompted you to create this proposal?
Sure. So this actually came to my attention a couple of years ago, pre-COVID. We know post-COVID that we're experiencing, just like a lot of other industries, but school bus drivers were experiencing a tremendous shortage. I know even in the school district where my kids attend, they've had some difficulty over the past couple of years in hiring those bus drivers. And I couldn't do that job, right? I see, every day my kids getting off the bus, it's loud. I'm sure it's a difficult job. And that's one of the many reasons that they've had trouble hiring those positions. But this problem predates COVID and predates this enormous shortage that we have. So I had learned, I think it was about 2018 or 2019, that students as young as kindergarten were given bus passes. So that's our, Port Authority here in Allegheny County to go ahead and get to school. And I was just jarred by that fact, because I was thinking at the time I had a kindergartner myself, and there's no way, no how was I going to ever hand them a bus pass in order to get to school. Fast forward to 2024, and we had one school district just a few weeks before the start of school just letting parents know through a letter in the mail that they were no longer going to provide yellow buses for them, but they were going to actually have to take a public bus. And I'm not saying anything against public transportation, but for young kids, especially ones that don't live anywhere near a bus stop, it's just completely unacceptable.
What are public school districts allowed to do legally to help charter schools and charter school students?
Sure. I mean, they can provide transportation, a yellow school bus. It's supposed to be equitable. So if that home school district is providing yellow buses to their own students, then they should be doing the same for charter students and students that are just seeking something different, not one size fits all when it comes to education, or hardly when it comes to anything in life. And we certainly see that with our kids in the way that they learn. So some parents are looking for different, sometimes better opportunities for their kids. They shouldn't be punished by having a student, in some instances, having to walk an hour to a bus stop and then get on a bus for an hour and have a 2.5-hour commute just to get to school, just to have the opportunity to learn. That doesn't seem very equitable to me.
What is preventing charter schools from having their own transportation system?
I mean, nothing's preventing it. And we've seen in the past, charter schools stepping in where the home school district was unwilling to provide appropriate transportation. The charter schools have actually stepped in and paid for it. But the public schools are receiving money for transportation. So as long as it's within that 10-mile radius, I understand if there are longer distances, that creates logistical and financial implications for the home school district. But when you're talking about something that's close and is already laid out in law, they should really be providing the same type of transportation to those students as the ones that are coming to the public school.
The Commonwealth Court saw a case very similar to this in the Wilkinsburg School District, where they deemed that public schools can offer public transportation passes to charter school students. Are you familiar with this case, and can you discuss it a bit?
Yes. So Wilkinsburg was one of the first school districts I learned that were doing this in Allegheny County, like I said, way back before COVID and the bus driver shortage. And we also, within that case, the court is basically saying, look, if you want to clarify the law so that it does have to be the same, if you want the kids, on the yellow school buses, like the law has to say so. So that was their interpretation. And now I think it falls back to the legislature to make it perfectly clear that in very limited scenarios should a kindergarten student be getting on public bus.
Your colleague in the House, Representative Joe McAndrew, accused you of using this proposal to funnel money out of public schools into charter schools. What is your response to that?
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So I actually had the opportunity to go with one of the superintendents from one of the charter schools, and this happened to be in Penn Hills. And we went and visited one of the students' homes who was they lived in Penn Hills. They were going to be attending Propel Charter School. 10 days before the start of school, the parents were notified that they would no longer be taking this yellow school bus. So the nearest bus stop, and I walked it myself, I walked it with the superintendent, pouring down rain. We walked on a 2-lane road, very windy, no shoulder, no sidewalk. Cars weren't slowing down for us. And this took the better part of an hour just to get to the bus stop. And you wait for the bus, then you get on the bus and you take it to downtown Pittsburgh, and you transfer the bus from downtown Pittsburgh back toward Penn Hills. This charter school happens to be in Braddock, which is relatively close to Penn Hills. And this was almost a 2.5-hour commute. So I would say to my colleague, go ahead and walk the walk, because I did, and this is unacceptable. Now, we were lucky, I think, shedding some light on it. We had a lot of media attention on that story, and Penn Hills rolled that policy back. But we've seen in the days since schools began this year for the 2025 school year, that other schools have already come out and said that they're changing the way that they're transporting charter kids. So we're thankful to the Penn Hill School District for actually, taking a look at that policy and realizing it didn't make sense for some of their students. But we need to make something uniform across the Commonwealth.
Would this cost public schools any extra money?
So the schools are already receiving money for transportation. And I do think it's a misnomer that it's like, this public, corporate greed charter school. Like the charter school, in this instance, the money is following the student instead of sitting with the school. That's the only difference. So I think we get hung up a lot on this verbiage is like public versus charter. The only thing that this legislation is concerned with is being pro-student. So it's not pro-public, it's not pro-charter, it's not pro this or that, as I've been accused of. It's pro-student. How do we get the kids to school? How do we do so safely and efficiently? Plain and simple.
What have your other colleagues in the House said about this bill?
So I've gotten quite a lot of feedback on it, just from some of the media attention that was out there and my own experience, walking to this particular bus stop and taking the bus to just shed a light on it. And that was the whole reason I wanted to see for myself, because this was an issue that had cropped up over and over again over the last several years. I wanted to know, is this actually a problem, or is this being blown out of proportion? And I don't think it was being blown out of proportion at all. From what I witnessed, I was just in disbelief that anybody made the decision for some of those students to be walking on that road and taking the bus into the city and then right back out. It made absolutely no sense.
Where is this bill in the legislative process now?
So I've introduced the co-sponsorship memo, and that, of course, always gets people talking and what is this about? Why are you doing it? I actually have the bill drafted right now. It's under a redraft process because I want to make sure I get it right. I don't want to just put something up there that was going to fix this one particular student situation. I want to make sure that we are doing right by all the kids in the Commonwealth, whether they're attending public, charter, whatever it might be.
Representative Natalie Mihalek, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.